Welcome all into another episode of the unofficial WCC Hoops podcast. I'm Zach Farmer. That's Thomas Dunn. We've got two more WCC games to recap. We are, of course, recording while college basketball is having pure chaos as we are during tournament week, championship week, and everything else. So you might see some instant reactions as we're going through this because we do have some bubble related games happening as we are going to be recording this. And of course we can't completely turn away from what's happening. But we're going to start off with the first game of the night in the WCC, which was Portland and Washington State. And in this one, we knew that Portland was coming out, like they had played really hard, a lot of minutes, heavy minutes for their guys. And game two is always tough. Washington State, we knew, could shoot it from three. And it was a close one in the first half, but in the second half, Portland just continued to lean on Washington State. We saw Garrett Nuckolls play great. We saw Dante Sensori Hercules play great. We got Micah Ballou coming out of nowhere. And it is the Portland Pilots who roll on to advance in the WCC tournament, as they did beat the Cougs 74-68. And we were picking which team was going to be the team to really hit it. We all had different teams. Neither one of us had the Portland Pilots on our list.
No, we didn't. And that just goes to show kind of everything that has happened in the WCC this year. And you mentioned Garrett Nuckolls, back-to-back nights for Pilots that have back-to-back career highs in points with 20-plus. Jermaine Balasager-Webb yesterday. Garrett Nuckolls tonight, I thought he was really great. I thought he played with great force. Balasager-Webb, his first career double-double. And you mentioned a name that's going to fly under the radar, really in the grand scheme of things. I thought he had really timely plays more than anything, and that's Micah Ballou. I thought when you mentioned like trends and the downturns of things happening and in the grand scheme of a season, Micah Ballou did not have to be kind of engaged as he was entering this conference tournament, and he was. And I think that's a very something you really have to praise if you're Shante Leggins and the Pilots, all things considered, because it could have easily gone awry for him in this case. But all things well on that front, especially when you don't get as much from James O'Donnell, Joel Foxwell, not seeing his shot go down, but he's played a lot smarter of a game, I think, tonight against Washington State compared to the game against Pepperdine. So all in all, a really good, consistent game, I think, from Portland and Washington State. I told you this, and I've posted about it online. Like, it's just really a lost at sea season for them. They lost 20 games for the first time since the Ernie Kent era. It's just like you never knew what you were going to get with them, and that's something we've been saying with a lot of teams this year. But Washington State, chief among them in that department.
I mean, Washington State, last time they saw, like, put up triple digits on this team. Portland lost by 30 last time out. They were swept by Washington State this season. And yeah, there's that old adage, it's hard to beat a team three times in a single season. And well, both of Portland's first two opponents have found that out the hard way, because both Pepperdine had swept the Pilots. So did Washington State, and both of them fell in the WCC tournament in the first two nights. That does mean that Portland will move on to play on Saturday against San Francisco, a team that they also have not beaten yet this year. So if Portland's going to continue the trend, it feels like that's going to be one that they're going to obviously hope to follow. But look, thinking about the way Portland played in the second half, because, I mean, Pilots shot 55% in that second period. Washington State shot 40%. I mean, Washington State only shot 37% for the game in this one. And it just never felt like Washington State could really get into a rhythm in that second half, because they did play they played an okay first half. Portland did get out to a semi-big lead early on, much like they did against Pepperdine, and much like in that game, Washington State came back and had a lead at the half. And so it felt like, okay, Washington State, like, it didn't play great, but they had a lead. They were feeling good. Like, Ace Glass was kind of doing his thing, but it was a lot of the role players, a lot of the guys that kind of stepped up in different roles. I mean, I think about almost a key moment in the game was that block on Ace Glass by Dante Sensori Hercules, and then he has the layup on the other end. that just felt like like it was already starting to swing Portland's direction, but the momentum just kind of felt like that was the stamp of the Pilots have got this, and that they were going to continue to kind of build that lead, and they had a double-digit lead late in the second half. Obviously, Washington came back and closed the gap a little bit, but right now, and that now they're playing with house money. I mean, they were playing with house money from the get-go, but you're 2 games in. You now have game 3 against the Dons, a team you kind of played pretty well against over the last couple of years, and they're going to be feeling really good, really tired, but really good going into tonight.
Look, I'm tired watching some of these games, let alone what they have to do in their recovery, all things considered. I think if Portland can get Joel Foxwell's shot going, I think that's a real big deal because I think you have the confidence of everybody else kind of already starting to take shape, especially when we mentioned Balasegar-Webb and Garrett Nuckolls. Maybe tomorrow will be Cam Williams. Who knows? We've seen him have some games with some solid offensive output. So I kind of look at that as kind of like the big deal, so to speak, for Portland. And lest we forget, when they played up at the Hilltop, Portland was ahead, I believe, 24-6 early on in that game. They did not win, but they were ahead by a lot early and couldn't finish the job. So that's kind of how I monitor it. We know USF is also a part of the group where it's what are you going to get on a night in, night out basis. And I think that's kind of where I look at it. When you mentioned Washington State and their rhythm, I just didn't think they really ever had it. Like even in the sense of that they had a better rhythm late in the first half. They didn't have it collectively. I mean, they scored 29 points in the first half. I mean, it's just not going to work that way. So when you look at all that and it compartmentalize everything together, it's just they needed a lot more from a lot more people, and they didn't get it. Like Richard Zwavers going 1 of 8 and 0-5 from 3. That's a tough pill to swallow. Ace glass. I didn't feel like I was going to get the ace glass, knock your socks off performance. It took too long to get into any semblance of gear, and by that point, way too late for Washington State, and it's been not a great WCC tenureship for Washington State. Let's just say that.
No, their short tenure in the WCC does end in a second round loss to Portland. Obviously, last year didn't end all that well either. So return to the Pac-12 for Washington State going into next season, and does kind of turn to what are the Cougs going to do in the offseason? What do they have to do? Because honestly, like obviously, like the portal is going to come very quickly, and they're going to have to probably rebuild that roster. I mean, chief among us probably going to be Ace Glass. Like I don't see him coming back. Much like when we saw Lawan Watts just really take off last year. I can see very similar that happening with Ace Glass, but we'll obviously see what happens in the portal in the next couple months. But for the Pilots, for the Dons, like, again, you mentioned the game last time up at the Hilltop. Dons won 73-68. Yes, Portland had that big lead in the first half. They shot 60% in that first half. But but the big second half from USF is really what lifted them. They ended up scoring 46 points in that second half, getting back into a kind of like a really good feel for them. David Fuchs had a double in that one. Ryan Beasley 14. Venabosi had 16 in that contest, which led USF. And this is going to be kind of this up and down challenge that USF has kind of had all year long. It's who's going to show up for them, because we've also seen them be much better at home, which we could also say about kind of everybody, every team on that side of the bracket. Oregon, would that be Oregon State, USF, Washington State, Portland, Pepperdine, like all of them had their own struggles on the road. And we saw them pop up for Pepperdine. We saw them pop up for Washington State. And yes, USF is probably the most talented of that group, but finding that level of consistency, finding that level of what we know they're capable of is going to be one of the hardest things. And mention Abosi being that leading scorer. Well, he hasn't played since January 31st. So they're going to be without the leading scorer in that ball game from way back when. And Portland has not had their best player have a really good night yet. I am almost kind of looking for this battle between Beasley and Foxwell as being, because one more entertaining note on this train, because we've gotten to see Ace Glass and Foxwell. Now we'll get Foxwell Beasley.
I'd like that. I'll send it for that. I'll throw a shout out to a freshman who I think may have a chip on his shoulder, considering he wasn't named to the all freshman team, Legend Smiley. Like what does Legend Smiley kind of show us in this tournament setting? Could he be the guy that we kind of weren't looking at holistically and need to be talking about going forward? And when I look back at the Portland game, the one thing that kind of stood out was that Barry Wong only played 6 minutes. Like this was kind of like a coach's decision rotation of how the night would go. And Barry Wong playing six is that's not something that you're accustomed to seeing. So I'd be intrigued to see kind of what he looks like in a kind of full sample size of what he looked against Portland more than anything, because as we know, USF and Portland's rotations have not been linear this season whatsoever. So I look at those two items and say, okay, what are we going to get? And then Tyrone Riley, probably one of his worst games of the season, just absent on really all accounts. Can USF get him going in this context? So lots of places where people can start to kind of like punch up and get more out of certain guys. It'll be really intriguing to see who actually gets that productivity in tomorrow night's game.
Big key for USF is continuing to dominate the boards. They really took control in that first matchup, 43-26. David Fuchs, obviously, big part of that. Get with those 10 boards. Abosi had 9. Gigi Barria had 6. So they did a really good job of controlling the glass, and that's going to be obviously a big key. If they can wear Portland down early, I think that's going to be a huge advantage for them. Again, third game in 3 nights for the Pilots is going to be a tough one, no matter who you're playing. But a team that does do a pretty good job on the glass, that's going to be a heavier lift, I think, for Portland going into this one.
Yeah, I think it is. And like we don't talk about we don't, as much as we talk about three games and 3 nights. This is where like all the off-season work, all the conditioning work that you in the summer programs, and that's where all this kind of pays dividends. And actually another like element to all this is we've kind of danced around the idea of what Portland's journey has been this season. I mean, probably hopefully no one picked up an injury in the celebration, because I mean, Shantae's down. We got all the injuries that the broadcast listed off. I mean, let's hope that they're healthy enough to kind of play these long taxing minutes, because this is not easy what Portland's trying to do. And maybe they can get more from Matusz Wronski, get some more, like, I guess, inject some energy in there. Micah Ballou, can you build on a performance like this? And when you play USF, can they find a way to turn the Dons over repeatedly? I think that's a big deal. I mean, Ryan Beasley is pretty much the sole creator on the Dons. And if Portland can find a way to kind of take it out of his hands, force someone else to beat them, then you never know. Especially 3 games and 3 nights. I mean, we've seen Pepperdine do it. I mean, this is exactly what they did last year when they took out the Broncos. So let's see. Just don't count out Portland just yet.
Right. Again, we've seen teams make these sorts of runs. We saw one last year, Pepperdine winning 3 games in this tournament a year ago. So it is doable. It is possible for a team that starts on day 1 to get deeper into the tournament. And Portland, all credit to them, because we all kind of counted them out on as we kind of went into this tournament, and now here they are they're heading into the weekend still alive. Shantae Leggins and the Pilots are still alive in the WCC tournament.
Let's go have a time. I mean, this is now when you start to see kind of like the inflection point of everyone kind of rise to the occasion, who your studs of the tournament, where these upsets going to happen, because I think the first 2 rounds are more or less kind of gravy. But if Portland can kind of be that team to put like the first like knife in the side of a WCC team that maybe didn't see it coming, then let's go. Let's sign me up. Like, this is where you want the chaos to start. I know we're watching a lot of the chaos that's rolling around the bubble tonight. Like St. John's just beat Seton Hall. Seton Hall's pretty much as good as dust right now, barring a Big East tournament run. We're watching Miami of Ohio in overtime. I mean, as everyone likes to say, this is March, and we're just enjoying this madness.
And then the second game of the night was Seattle U and San Diego, and this was a rock fight. There was nothing pretty about this game. First half, second half, I mean the stretches that somewhat looked good didn't even look all that good in this ball game. But in the end, it did come down to the very last shot of Vuk Boskovic, like throwing up a heave. It was a scrum down low, but Seattle U survives San Diego 58-56. The nightcap at Orleans Arena. Like Will Heimbrodt and JoJo Murphy kind of led the way for for Seattle U, this was, again, not the prettiest of games. Brandon Maldonado, 2 points. Like, you look at June Sakio, 8 points. Malik Arrington, 5. Like, they shot 40% from the field. It's like, this one was ugly, and it was ugly for both teams, but it is survive and advance time, and that's exactly what Seattle U did, was survive and advance.
Gross. So unbelievably gross. I mean, in that first half, San Diego had some nice energy, I would say. I mean, they got Seattle on the back foot, made them call timeout and such. I was like, okay, San Diego's coming to play. Like, we're getting a little bit of Adrian McIntyre in the first half. We're getting a little bit of Tonari Lane, some down rip, Vuk Boscovich. And then in the second half, I mean, those first 15 minutes of the second half, I mean, San Diego just kind of got grinded into pixie dust by Seattle U. And that's kind of what they do defensively. They've shown that all season in doing that. But the ever persistent problem, how much offense will they get? And the answer was nothing, absolutely none. And yet they won the game, which is what matters ultimately. 3 of 21 from 3. And the part that kind of sticks out the most in terms of why they won, 36 to 12 points in the paint advantage. That'll do it, especially, Wilhelm wrote good as a slasher. I thought JoJo Murphy probed well. I think he kind of took the slack off Braden Maldonado, who struggled a lot. And I know he fouled out, but shout out Huron Dan. I thought he actually had a really solid game, and the numbers don't really do him justice. But San Diego, a good effort. That's the end of the Steve Lavin era. Unfortunately, Juanse Gorosito only got 5 shot attempts in this game, and should have at least had a look from Vuk Boscovich on that last heave. I don't know what Vuk Boscovich was thinking there.
I mean, just even thinking about that one matchup, you talk about Juanse Gorosito, like because he was one of the guys who led them to this game, the second round game. Juanse had 6 points, 2 of 5 from the field. He was in foul trouble, and he only played 15 minutes in this game. But he, especially down the stretch of this game, and he was in the game late in this one. He's the type of guy who needs to at least touch the ball on every single possession and have almost like a shot attempt, especially when they were trying to make their comeback late in this ball game. I know that Tonari Lane had some good moments there late. I know that that we saw a couple of nice drives from Adrian McIntyre to kind of get them back into this one. But the microwave is Juanse Gorosito, and I feel they needed to get him the ball and get him some looks late in that one, and just did not happen nearly often enough. And on the Seattle U side, like, I mean, you mentioned it, like JoJo Murphy kind of took that pressure off of Braden Maldonado, the 12 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists off the bench. Seattle U had a 23-11 advantage in those bench points over San Diego. And I mean, we saw JoJo Murphy do this a little bit over the last few weeks because Braden Maldonado was unavailable. So he has gotten a few more minutes late this season. He's proven that he can kind of step into that role. Again, this isn't a young kid. Like, this is a senior coming over from the D2 level to play at Seattle U. So someone who has a ton of experience, a ton of big time experience at that level, coming over to have a really solid first outing in the WCC tournament. And the challenge is going to be there for game 2 for Seattle U, because they're going to be taking up against Pacific. And right as we were thinking about this game and what this is going to look like, this first game was 58-56. It wouldn't surprise either one of us if we ended up somewhere right about the same ballpark, because these two know how to make it a grinder. These two teams know how to make it tough and drag teams into the mud. And you know what? They just might drag each other into the mud on Saturday night.
I mean, bring your boxing gloves, bring your hard hats, bring your lunch pails, bring it all. I mean, the theme that stands out for Seattle U Pacific, physicality. I mean, these guys are going to be throwing haymakers at each other in the paint. And I mean, I will wholeheartedly share the sentiments of this could be a 55-52 game, pretty similar to the one in Stockton. That's kind of what stands out to me, and at least in mind. I mean, a battle of defense, a battle of who can take away each other's best. Pacific keying in on Braden Maldonado again. CLU keying in on Elias Ralph. I think those, I think you really have to focus on the stars here more than anything. And any secondary offense you can get is kind of gravy. And I think that'll be the tipping point. Who gets more secondary offense? And that for me sticks out above all most. Seattle U, they need to continue to try and fight the rebounding battle, because I know the rebounding margin's been tough in WCC play, and Pacific is a really good rebounding team. So those are kind of my two keys in terms of what to look for in this game, and acknowledging that there probably will not be a ton of points.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the last match, you mentioned the rebounding. Pacific had a 39-27 rebounding advantage in that last matchup. A game in which they did squeak out a win by 2. TJ Wainwright had 15 in that one. Isaac Jack, 14 and 8. Elias Ralph only had 6 points in that last matchup, although he did have 9 rebounds in that one. And that was one of the last regular season games for Brandon Maldonado. He had 20 points in that contest. And again, it's like it was a little bit of the struggle of the offense. They shot 38% for the game in that one, but they did shoot 40% from 3, so that kept Seattle U hanging around in that contest. But yeah, this one's going to be a lunch pail game. This one's going to be bring your hard hats. This one is not. It's going to be physical. It's going to. I don't see either one of these teams really giving in or anyone pulling away from the other. The only thing I will say that we've at least seen Seattle U pick up some wins as of late, not Friday night notwithstanding, and Pacific has lost 4 straight. They are kind of on the ropes. Like they haven't tasted a victory in a few weeks. And yeah, when you look at who Pacific has played, that obviously is a big factor to that equation. But this is a team that is sitting at the end of the regular season, end of potentially their season, and they've gone a few weeks without a win. And that's something that I think that they're going to have to try to figure out, getting some momentum early on. Because if there is something that maybe could snowball, is if Seattle U jumps on Pacific early on, the thoughts of this could be it, the season could be over, might start to creep in. And I mean, I want to see this Pacific team continue on, because they've been one of, like, even from the preseason, this was a team that I thought would do really well, and obviously has done a lot better than a year ago, 2 years ago. And I like the direction that Dave Smart has this team pointed in. And so I would love to see Pacific move on and continue on. But of course, I could say the exact same thing about Seattle U, because that's another team that we've been high on all year long. So I think the only thing maybe to Saturday, to maybe my own personal one, it's going to be tough to see one of these teams go home, because these two have been 2 of my favorites all year long.
Yeah, I totally see what you mean by that. I think when you talk about Pacific's kind of slide to end the regular season, I almost wonder that it was a good thing that they had this, like, almost a week off to kind of sit on it, simmer on it, because I think you can tell Pacific had kind of expended a lot of energy to get to where they are. And I don't think if they were, say, did all that to get sent back to like the 9 seed, for example, I think it would have been a quick exit, because they just wouldn't have had a whole lot left in the tank. But I think when you look at just the way kind of teams kind of get to simmer about when it comes to conference tournament time, I think the rest can really benefit a team like Pacific, one that likes to use its energy to its advantage, one that likes to bring the physicality, bring the force. When that's kind of your calling card, and rebounding and all that, a couple extra days off, I think, will do this team some good. I think they'll be a little bit more recalibrated against Seattle U. But when it comes to more half-court execution, I will look at the Redhawks thinking they can do a little bit more, because these two teams are about similarly evenly matched, and they've showcased it this season. And I'd be really intrigued to kind of see who sets the tone, and ultimately who can either respond or continue to pull away in this game, because I think we both share the expectations that these teams are peers right now. And both questions are about how much offense can each team kind of bring to the table on a consistent basis. So I look at those places, and if whichever team kind of gets that secondary offense, that more of a punch, I think it'll be the team that wins going away, if at all, in the chance of getting to the quarterfinals against Santa Clara.
Yeah, I'm looking at those backcourts. TJ Wainwright, Jaden Clayton, and then Maldonado and Arrington and Murphy. Like whichever one of those backcourts I think can start to have a little bit of a better night is going to be able to pull this one out. I think the front courts are just going to be just beat each other up in this one. So I'm looking at the guards, whichever of those back courts can really get it going early and obviously like take care of the basketball late, I think is going to be able to pull through on this one. One note I do want to mention that before we actually get any further ahead is congrats to Chris Victor on victory number 100 in his career, picking up and also was win number 20 for Seattle U of the season. So a couple of big check marks for the Red Hawks on Friday night. And yeah, I mean, very quickly, I mean, that Seattle U program has been able to get to that 100 mark, in year, I believe it's year 5 for Chris Victor.
Yeah, I mean, he's been, when you talk about underrated coaches along the West Coast, I mean, Chris Victor is top of the board along that department. It has to be, you have to be looking at him in there to see kind of, you have to dive into the details to kind of understand the impact that he's made at Seattle U. Not a whole lot of resources looking on the upswing. He just gets the most out of his players on a consistent basis. And I think you have to come away with a healthy respect for him and his program whenever you play his teams. I know lots of fan bases around the league that are uber impressed with what Seattle U kind of brings in on a game-in, game-out basis. And I share those sentiments. I think Seattle U is a hell of a good team. I don't think they're a 7 seed by any stretch. Like, if you asked me to, like, straight up name teams in this league, I would probably put them in 5, around the 5s hole or something like that. So, I mean, they're good, they're capable, and I think they're going to be capable for years to come in this league. But it's not all about unfortunately, not all about the accolades today in terms of the coaches. That is the end of the Steve Lavin era at USD. That is something to acknowledge, and unfortunately, just not enough wins. I thought the culture was generally fine. I know there's the Tyler Johnson situation and the mystery that was KJ Bradley at times, but I thought for the most part he led well. He just didn't get enough wins, didn't win on the margins. And like tonight, I thought they fought hard for him, but couldn't get over the hump with those timely plays against Seattle U.
Yeah, it'll media day, like the course of the season will be very different without the personality that is Steve Lavin and the coach that he is, and obviously like the years and years of successes he's had through UCLA, St. John's, and then they were the surprise team a few years ago in the WCC under Lavin. I think that was year 1 of his tenure, where they were the surprise team coming from the bottom of the totem pole, at least making some noise in WCC play. And so that is going to wrap it up for this episode of the unofficial WCC Hoops podcast. We do have 2 games on Saturday, so that is going to be, of course, we're going to see Seattle U taking on Pacific, and then it will be the surging Portland Pilots taking on the San Francisco Dons, as they will look to pick up their 3rd win in 3 days against San Francisco. Any last thoughts before we head off for the night?
I mean, I'm investing all my Portland Cinderella stock at this point. Let's, just keep the good times coming if that's what's going to happen. Let's see what Shante Legans' group still has left in the tank on day 3, because now we're starting to get into more, I would say, I'll dub it serious territory. Like, let's meet your maker. Let's get some serious March Madness NCAA tournament projections in there. So starting to get towards that time, but really excited to take another look at Portland.
So we do still have the possibility of having a Eastern Washington Bowl one more time because we do have a former Eastern on both sides of the bracket still in Shante and Chris Victor.
You know what? I hadn't given a whole lot of credence to that. So you know what? If that's what it takes in the WCC finals, then let's do it.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, everyone, for watching. Be sure to hit the subscribe button on YouTube, Spotify, wherever you're listening to the podcast. Follow on social media at unofficial WCC Pod. That's Thomas. I'm Zach. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we will catch you later.